thank you for coming, everybody, on this gorgeous day. I thought, well, it's really nice. I might rather be on a picnic. And thank you, Izzy, and all the team at Aigantighe. It's been wonderful being here. Just loved it, and loved the club rooms and all that. It's just a wonderful atmosphere here. Very lucky to have it all. So I'm going to go through basically my work, but when I put it together, it is really my story. I didn't, when you start, you don't know what's going to come next, and looking back, as that work is about, I see it's in fact a story I never could have written. It's quite stunning. So I'm starting with this work here, which is interlocking figures, and it was a small work. It was about the first work I did and my first firing. I'd bought a kiln with some money my aunt had left me, and I knew she'd want me to do something special, but I made this little piece, and there was this exhibition advertised called Ties That Bind, and I thought, well, I can't put in that because I'm just a beginner and I can't possibly enter that, with everyone else that knows all about pottery. Anyway, I did, or craft it was all crafts, so it was a big exhibition. Anyway, I put it in and it won, so that was quite remarkable for me, and it set me off on a trajectory of sort of always a bit more than I can do all the way, I would say, but it's been great. So that was a very little work. It's only this size, so you hold it in your hand and you can pull it apart. And so, but because of winning, the exhibition was going all around New Zealand. You can imagine how I felt. And they said, oh, well, you can put an exhibition in the ASA Gallery. Well, I did not have much skill, but I had a big interest in women's, what would I call it? Not religion, but spirituality is the word I want. And so I thought, oh, well, that's what I know, but that's what I'll do. So I made these masks, and they're pit fired, using fibre. So I've got wool on that one and some kind of straw type of thing on that, and fur and string, all sorts of things. And there were about probably 12 of them. So they were imposing, I have to say. And there's a close-up of one, like they're larger than life size. That's Hecate. So it was, working through what I was interested in and making what happened. And this is part of that exhibition, and it's called Bird Woman. So, and as you can see, it's all pit fired. Oops, sorry, I'll go back. Out of that, I got invited to do an exhibition. It all happened so quickly, I didn't know anything really. And I made this work, and it showed in the Auckland Auckland Society of Arts Gallery, and then it got reinstalled here at what's now known as Te Tuhi, that's out at Pakuranga, and their courtyard. And it was absolutely, that's my phone. How bizarre. Did you hear that or not? No, that's right. Anyway, that can go outside or something. This was in the courtyard, and I used terracotta, which there was no added material at that time. I had been adding paper more in the last, say, 15 years. but this is basic terracotta from Coromandel. And the works in the middle, the 7 grinding stones, represent the body chakras. So it was kind of a religious installation. And for those, I mixed an incredible amount of work. I mixed up this very, very stiff mix of sand and white clay. It was very, very gritty and didn't have much sticking together part. But I put it in a huge mould I made, one at a time, of course, and then glazed with the glazes I gave people at the workshop. So I've left those papers, you can dish them out because they're really interesting glazes and you get all these fantastic colours. But I've also used oxides in the clay itself. So it was a big job, a big physical job. And that's a close-up of the goddess. And it attracted a lot of attention because it was right on that sort of cusp of people being interested in women's spirituality, and a film got made. I was thinking, I've got so many films, I could have a film evening, but I'm not, but they're quite good. This one, of course, is now, I don't know, maybe 30 years old. It's a historic piece of the film itself. And so this is a work a wee bit later, but it's called Four Directions. So it's fire, but the cross is fire, the triangle is air, the sphere is earth, and this half sphere is glazed inside with a lovely turquoise glaze, and that's water. I really like those. And then I should refer to my notes so I'm not leaving things out, because it's a bit of a jump to this. My son was very ill and has been very ill all along. He's had 3 liver transplants. It's been a major thing in my life. And at the time, as I was getting used to that knowledge, I made these, and I called them wounded vessels. And they were made out of slip, which I made a mould and then poured the slip in. So I got a sort of fundamental figure, and then I altered them. So I don't know if you've ever worked with slip, but it's got that quality of liquefaction's the word, where it sort of half dissolves, so you get interesting tears and collapses, and of course there were a lot of rejects, but I just loved them. And I don't use this. And here's one.
Excuse me, was that a patchwork behind it?
Oh, that was just happened to be.
But it works.
It does. I thought so too.
You did that as well?
No. I don't do fibre.
No.
Yeah. But one of these, this one here, is in a church in, Remuera.
So how tall were those previous figures?
They're all about this size.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So they're quite light. They're very light because they're hollow, and also very fragile. That's a disadvantage. But once they're on the wall, they're fine. Yeah. This one's not quite so torn. Yeah. And then I moved on. I had an exhibition at a gallery in Auckland, and I called it Craving Images, and that was also about wanting some kind of assistance from all that is with my son. So there were images of reaching out and craving for some form of contact beyond this knowledge that we have. So that's medial. Medial's it was really a beautiful piece. I really liked that. So that at this time I had all the hands starting to open out as well. So this was an exhibition following on from the craving images. I called this surface tension and permeability, and the idea was if I could increase my knowledge with, making my skin, my being more permeable, I would know more and I would be able to do more and more help. So I was really seeking help at big time for my son, and took these down to our local beach and photographed them. And someone was saying the other day, what a lot of work. Yes, it was. All these things were a lot of work, and I look back and think, how did we get through that? I don't know. Because all these were carted in our car, and they're quite big. The biggest would be about this size, so. And of course quite heavy. And they've been fired, and one thing that helped me hugely was I met this person who said, oh, they've got a big kiln in Devonport and they don't use it. And I said, oh, would you be happy with me to use it? And it was huge. You could walk in it, and I could fire these enormous pieces. So that they made my work change significantly from the normal size work to this.
Wood fire or?
No, they're just gas fired, but they've got oxides on, and that gives the look of wood firing, because I do like wood firing a lot. But I've managed to, the terracotta is the terracotta from Coromandel, and sometimes I mix oxides with the clay body, but generally I'd rub it over the surface, maybe with a bit of Gerstley borate or something to act as a flux. So that was reaching out, just anything, tell me what to do, kind of thing. And this work is reading backwards, which was sort of an acknowledgement of, I really don't know what to do. I'm looking back and I'm piecing together. And this was in Narrowneck in the Women's Refuge exhibition, which, like a lot of people can relate to this sort of fragmentation of this work. And the puzzle of it all, like have these pieces match, but they don't quite fit. And that's pretty much how I felt. What did I say here? I said, we think we know what these things were for, but do we? What they might have been, how it might have been, if events hadn't overtaken. Where do the pieces fit? What's missing? Rusted steel, burnt earth, blown apart or taken apart? Here for a greater purpose, or merely misplaced and left? I'm putting the pieces together again, reading backwards from the beginning. I hoped. Anyway, it was a monumental work in progress, but the sections didn't match. I understood that it was something big coming. and were they made for a different purpose? So subterranean rumbling of the works that were to follow. It's up close up there. And this is, well before Victory Medal. This was a foot by itself. So it's like the pieces are embedded and then it develops on over time, over years. Oh, that's it in my workshop, sprayed with oxides. I don't really know why it's quite so white, because the clay is actually a bit darker than that. Oh, and here's our work here, reading backwards. I'm looking backwards to see my way forwards, I should say. And this was for an exhibition in Dunedin at the Milford Gallery, and it was called Southern Crossing, looking back to see my way forwards. And I wrote, "This is only a beginning, certainly not a definitive statement. Looking backwards to see my way forward. Whispers, hints, glimpses, leaves shifting, vague fragrances, wind-sharpened senses show a crisscrossing personal map, a honeycomb with a myriad of readings, and yet a single beat, a sustained, abiding yearning for my hometown, for grey, subtle southern skies, the colour of my mother's eyes, and southern crosses, crossing south, a southern crossing south, wild, wild life, uncompromising land, honey smell of pine needles, macrocarpus shadow the cemetery visits on Sundays." That was for my father. Sandy soil scraping round my father's grave, afraid to stand in front of it, not on his body. This is only a beginning, certainly not a definitive statement. There's far too many comings and goings, far too many years for there ever to be a statement of the love and longing for Whare Flat, Outram, Purakanui or Broad Bay. A scratching on the surface, a loosening of the soil. And that was so true for me. Sometimes I cry reading that, it means a lot to me. So then, I mentioned just then, that was in a way moving back to my father who died when I was 9. This is part of the looking back to see my way forward. And here's a photo of him when he was about 20. He's dressed because he's going to World War I, and he went to Europe with the New Zealand division, and he was a signaller, and he came back. But he didn't live very long. I think, he had a kidney disease, and I think, well, the thinking is it may have been something he picked up in the war. So I opened a box of family photos and started researching his life. And over time, I've been able to trace and follow his footsteps to Belgium, across France to Cologne, and to Germany towards the end of World War I. They went, the New Zealanders, the amount of distance they tramped across Europe. They literally marched right across France, and marched into Belgium, and right along this Meuse Valley into Cologne. So we've retraced that, and that's been awesome. And so the only way I could calm myself through my son's illness and surgeries and things was reading about the terrible events of World War I. It sort of calmed me. It seems crazy, but it did. So I read heaps, and I'm saying here, I'm drawing on a sense of solidarity with other mothers whose sons' lives have been on the line. And that's how I felt, and probably still do to some extent. So anyway, I didn't do much work at this time apart from my reading, but I was in the workshop one day and I started making arms, and I thought that's interesting. I haven't finished with arms, and just quietly observing, and then I thought it was like this whoosh of inspiration. It was truly amazing. This works about suffering. I'm reading about the war. I'm reading about my father. This can be my war. It's more than war. It's just the anguish of war, if you like. That this would be the work, and I thought, I could get clay from the battlefield of Europe. Well, I don't know which place at that time. Yeah, oh, sorry, that's actually not in the right place. I meant to shift that. That's a Southern Crossing. It belongs to that previous exhibition. Anyway, I thought I could, these arms and the battlefield and the water, so I could use the soil, the clay from the battlefield mixed with, as I called it, rough, unprocessed clay from Coromandel, and create, I don't know what I thought I'd create, but it was it was sort of unstoppable, and I would position them in water and they'd reach up like the shell blasted trees. Well, you saw that photo a while ago about the arms on the beach. I had that on the floor of our bedroom, and I was doing my research into World War I, and I had the photo of the shell blasted trees, which is a famous one. I just can't think who the photographer is, but never mind. They were just lying on the floor side by side, and I could see this is what it was. This was my work to do with World War I and any anguish and strife. So here, this photo, I should have looked up who that is, and that's the photo I showed you before. And that became pretty well known too, because I made a film. I could have another time here with films, I'll tell you, but we're not doing that. Anyway, so that was a very significant turning point, and I contacted people in Belgium and said, would they be interested in sending some clay to New Zealand, because I wanted to make this work about World War I. And I spoke to this person, Freddie de Klerk, and he became a really good friend. And he said, plenty of mud in Flanders. So anyway, he got this work, and it happened that Helen Clark was in the vicinity, and she could see, there was a potential for, I suppose, what would she say? Like a political comment in a way. So anyway, she received it, and so it became almost town. I wouldn't say that, but it was pretty special, this clay mixture. And that developed into the work that's in the gallery that you've now seen. So you can see the shell blasted trees at the back, and this is all as a result of that one inspiration that day when I said, it's interesting, I haven't finished with these arms. I certainly hadn't. Anyway, this is a big steel pool. It was in a gallery in the Auckland Museum. I was so honoured to be there. Many, 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 many miracles, like the director at the time was Rodney Wilson, and he got right behind this project as well. And it's 13 arms, I think it was 13. The steel frame was of the pool. The pool itself was huge, and I had this wonderful engineer by chance as well, who came through the museum with me and said, "Yep, we'll get it through here. Yep, we'll get it through there." He built a kind of a trolley, and it was angled. Well, everywhere it went was to the millimetre, but it got in here, and we filled it with water and put these arms in. It was all, I don't know if we'd get away with it now, but anyway, you know, the wonderful reflections, because it reflected right down and up. And I had good readings around. I put script on the wall, and yes, it was very successful. And then the people from Belgium came and here to see it, and they decided to take it back to Belgium, to their museum here, and it's still there. This is in Passchendaele, but it's in Zonnebeke, which is an adjacent village, like a stone's throw away, like from here to Geraldine. Less, actually, about halfway to Geraldine. And this lovely old Flemish style building and lovely grounds, lake. It's just beautiful. But of course, you know, like just out here, say, just a bit on the side, are all these graveyards. Like, I couldn't, there's one called Tyne Cottage, the biggest, I think, in Europe. And I looked at it from a distance. Thought, that can't be gravestones. That must be something else. And I said to one of the Flemish people, "What's that?" She said, "That's Tynecod." And Tynecod, like, it would be maybe all of the ground here, maybe twice, covered with these gravestones for the dead. But you know, like, they're everywhere. They're like a crop in Europe. You know, we'd be driving around and you'd get these white crops of the gravestones. Then there'd be the yellow wheat and then green sugar beet. They grow there a lot. And yes, interestingly, when I was a kid, I used to have a nightmare, a frequent one, and it was always in white, yellow and dark green, and that was the colours of Europe, like the pup, because we were going around the World War I sites. Really took hold of me, that whole period of time. Hold of me, yes, that's one of the hands up close. And you can see I've used a lot of grog in there. It is paper clay, terracotta, and scoria in there. That's what's given it those lumps, and it was wonderful what happened with the clay itself. And someone asked the other day, how did I transport them? Well, they were in these big crates, and when it went to Passchendaele, there's quite a bit of repair work to do, believe me, and it was like a field hospital here, but I was in this storeroom with all this World War I paraphernalia, like, you know, these things, but they were diffused. Oh, and see the back there, that steel at the back on the left, right, I mean, is the base of the that held the water for World War I. So, and for Falls of Shadow. So it became, that in itself was like a work of art. But anyway, it's buried underwater now. And as I say, in the museum. And here I am with a very big job of repairing some of the damage, because they'd travelled from New Zealand to Passchendaele, and then they went to France for another installation, and then they came back. But when they came back, they were stored in this barn, I suppose, and so cold, and the work was so wet, if you like, it siphoned up water. The tips of the fingers were crumbling. So that was quite major, sorting that up.
What were they fired to that they were crumbling?
Oh, about 1100, but it was because they'd been frozen, literally frozen with the water, and then in the expansion, as it melted, sort of, it broke the fingertips. So I had a very big job reconstructing those.
So what did you use to reconstruct them?
I used epoxy resin and mixed up the clay body. I always travel with quite a kit of crunched up clay body fired, and yes, epoxy resin mainly. And then I've got these wonderful colours of epoxy resin that I've had now for about 20 years, because you only use the tip of a point, because they're very, very strong colours, to mix in. I used to feel I could fix anything, of clay, of ceramic, shall we say. I wouldn't be able to fix a fine porcelain plate, but I could do all this. And here I am, that's all part of it, was all, it all coincided with the centenary. So I didn't plan that or know that. I mean, I was doing it from the reasons that I was doing it, the arms down on the beach, the arms lying on the bedroom floor with the shell-blasted trees. And it became a huge story, and people responded, it became meaningful to a lot of people. Quite incredible, and it wasn't, as you know, the intention was really much more personal. And then I thought, going back to that work, a lot to say here, I'm sorry, but the work that, reading backwards, yes, when the pieces that didn't make sense to me, but they related as a composition. And one of the pieces was a foot, and I just sort of, went out to get the post or something, and I thought, I think I'll develop that, the feet. So I made these to begin with, and that was called Standing Two. And then I did another one called Other Ranks, and I had one bronze and one terracotta. So yes, so it was like some soldiers get acknowledged and given a medal, but others don't. So the other ranks had generally lesser, fewer privileges. Anyway, so I made that. A lot of these works are in the sculpture on shore. This is, and so all of them have been. Yeah. Anyway, so this then became Victory Medal, and because on the way after I made that previous work, I thought they'd look great in this gun emplacement on Fort Takapuna. And so I made a lot of feet, and then I thought, well, I could put them on a steel plinth, a bit like the Falls of Shadow was on a plinth the other way around, holding water. This was one where all the work sat on the top. And the fact that it was in the circular gun emplacement created this work, and I thought, well, it's a medal, and I'll call it victory medal, and it'll be sort of sardonic comment on war, because it will, these are our heroes, but they're all blown off at the foot, and one pair is bronze. It's a recognised hero, but they were all heroes. The Victory Medal acknowledged our heroes, and so it's quite wonderful, really, because yes, here we are. This so when I made it, this is how chance happens. But just before I was going to install it, someone from the army rang up and said, "Oh, maybe we could have a ceremony around this work." And I thought, yeah, that would be a great thing. And so the work was there. It only just got there, and this guy, he was in the army, and various associates came. You can see them here in their uniforms. They came and I spoke, and they did, various readings, and we had the last post. It was quite wonderful. But what happened with these red poppies is a friend of mine just sort of grabbed them out of a garden as she was leaving to come to the ceremony, and plonked them in a glass jam jar type of thing, and had them sort of down on the ground in front. So when this photographer that I'd only met that day as well came and took this photo. So he got down low with these poppies, and I just think it's the most amazing photo. I think it's quite wondrous. So it was purely about 4 layers of chance getting that. And yes, this is what I wrote for Victory Medal. Victory Medal honours our forebears who fought in World War I, those who died and those who returned with their lives blighted and shortened by the experience of war. Victory Medal acknowledges all of our heroes. 36 pairs of feet, the number of a small platoon, stand on a rusted street medal in 4 sections, creating a cross formation. The feet are moulded into a cohesive fighting unit. They're torn, distressed, and fired under intense heat over a period of 3 days, and are permanently altered and hardened. They're sinewed footsloggers' feet. And as I said just before, in World War I, the New Zealand division literally marched back and forth, and eventually right across northern France and Belgium, and in the end to Cologne. My father was with them as a young signaller. 1 pair of feet is cast in polished bronze, a recognised hero. It's actually there behind the poppies. But I did put it randomly in subsequent installations. And I've made the really good comment. Suffering and death are indiscriminate. They were all heroes. The men and women who were and are caught up in wars on our behalf, those who died and those who returned, often chronically ill, psychologically torn and damaged by the experience of war, and the families at home who cared for them. It's a very lonely place to really suffer and return to the world as if all is well. And this is coming from my experience too. So it's while I'm drawing on something that is our country's experience, or many of us have got family members who went to the war and suffered and came back and returned to this country as if all was well. So anyway, at the end of, Rodney Wilson at the museum said, what are you going to do with those feet? And I said, oh, well, I don't know, they're in my workshop, all stacked up and numbered, fortunately. He said, you could tour those. I thought, I couldn't do that. And he said, oh yes, I know various people in different galleries. What's happened? Oh, anyway, we've hopped on. We have moved along, but I'll just tell you how it got to there. That he said, oh no, you can put them in regional museums. So between us, we got, I don't know, about 4 or 5. So went to Gisborne, then to Dunedin, then to Nelson, then to Wellington in the Botanic Gardens, which was wonderful there. And then, I was trying to think what the jump was. It was a big jump. Not sure if I wrote. We were doing a bit of touring around Europe, finding my father's footsteps. But how did it come to Arras?
The mayor came in.
Yes, the mayor came and visited, that's true. But how did it move from sitting in my workshop? I was touring around, so I was in Wellington, and then I was a bit missing here, but anyway, the mayor of Arras came and other people from Arras came, and they said, yes, we'd like to put Victory Medal in the square at Arras. And then these red discs around the base were another person from Devonport who was doing these independently of anything I was doing, was making these red discs, and you could sign your name, or sign it for your grandfather or your father or cousin or whatever, and lay it around here. So that made a giant poppy. It was stupendous, I have to say, because the effect of the red around the feet, it just looked unbelievable. And then they said, well, it's going to be for the opening of the Battle of Arras commemorations. So we're going to have all these people coming. And they had this unveiling, and they covered it all with this beautiful red silk, and they had a choir there and the whole drama, as French like to do, speeches and so on, and flicked up this red silk. It was just such a theatrical moment. And the guests of honour here that's the mayor on the right of Arras, that's Monsieur President Mitterrand, Justin Trudeau, and our own, what's his name?
Finlayson.
Pardon?
Finlayson?
Finlayson, yes, Chris Finlayson. And I'm not sure who else there, and then some of the school kids and things. Yes, so it was pretty amazing, all that. And these things, there's no future plan, it's just sort of me chasing up what's unfolding at the time. So, and this, look at that, it's, it's the most beautiful town square. And all of this, all the buildings were blown apart in World War I, so it was known as one of the sacrifice towns. They sort of let various historic sites get blown to smithereen rather than bombing all over the place. So this was one of them, and it's been rebuilt. I imagine they made a big submission after the war to get it redone, because it is really stunning. Yes, these things happened. Can you believe it? Can you? I can't. Gosh. Anyway, then the next thing it was to go to Messines, which is another battlefield area of particular relevance to New Zealanders. And by that time, you know, Victory Medal and the whole story was quite well known, and the Belgian army got involved on this occasion, and here they are rolling into the streets of Messines, and with these huge trucks loaded up with the crates of Victory Medal. It's quite a nice sculpture there of a German soldier greeting a British soldier. And, you know, things happen, and his Dame Patsy was there, and she was there because it was the centenary, but she agreed to come and open Victory Medal, and that's the mayor on the left. Really nice people.
Can I ask a question? How long ago was this, and is that still there?
No, it's now in France, awaiting reinstallation. Yeah, I've got a photo of the French one, I think. This is Belgium, yes. So, and then, like, it looks nice and sorted and everything, but when you get there, you know, when we arrived, all this works in crates, and these big crates that were on that army truck being offloaded, and then, you know, like, ordinary people come to help. The farmers came to help to install this. Well, these quadrants of steel are extraordinarily heavy, and I was always anxious that no one would, you know, cut their fingers off or something. But anyway, they sort of, it was all cobbled together, and they came with a one of those forklift trucks, and no, what was it? Farmers. What do you call it?
Hoist thing.
Pardon?
A tractor with a
Tractor with a thing in the front to lever these up. So all this is sort of, oh, what are we going to do? You know, what are we going to do? And oh, well, so-and-so's got a tractor, and they're breaking it up, and you know, it comes trundling up the little streets of Messines. It's a small village, but it's very significant to New Zealand. Like, I don't know, you know, like the storming of the Messines Ridge, and they had all underneath, they had all these giant mines. There's still one there that could blow up at any time. No one can find it. But, you know, if it did, it would blow up you know, the whole village. It killed hundreds of the other ones that did blow up. Oh, that's it there too. And in the background there's quite a well-known sculpture of a New Zealand soldier. And people come, you know, truckloads, well, not truckloads, busloads used to come. They come anyway to see that sculpture. And they also saw Victory Medal for, well, it was about 2 years. And here it is in the snow. So it was like, you know, the soldiers, the New Zealand soldiers, they had to winter out in the snow too. And just like this, you know, I had a tent maybe, or in a trench. It was very, 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 very cold. And then this work is, it's in bronze. So I was commissioned to make this. It was out of the blue. We were going away for the weekend, and there was this phone call from someone who said they were the director of the Navy Museum, and they might want a sculpture. And I kind of thought, oh, they won't, you know. they're just saying that, and because this is local, this is right in Devonport. Anyway, it did go ahead, and I thought, well, I could do this Jacob's ladder, which is the ladder here, and the arms reaching up. And then I was thinking, they might not. See, Jacob's ladder is another of my motifs, if you like. It's because my father died when he was 9. I was 9, I should say. I don't have a lot of memories, but one of them was that we climbed up a Jacob's ladder, which was down at Long Beach, just out of Dunedin. I didn't know that for years. I sort of, every now and then, would go down to Dunedin and I'd say to Derek, we could go for a drive today, and perhaps we could go round the coast and see if we can find that Jacob's ladder. Well, we never did, but a friend, an artist, was going down there, and I said, well, he was going to live there for about a year. I said, if you see anyone that will see this Jacob's ladder, let me know. Well, he wrote one day, and I was sitting in the waiting room in the hospital at the time, so it's all sort of, right on the edge of everything. He wrote and said, that Jacob's ladder is lying over the fence of his girlfriend's batch. So we went sometime later down to Dunedin and went and saw them, had a cup of tea beside the ladder. It was just right there. We were staying in her batch. And Derek said, oh, look, we could take this back to New Zealand, back to Auckland. And I said, oh, don't be silly, it's far too big, how would we do that? Anyway, they arranged it and cut it into pieces, which is ouch. But anyway, and loaded it on a truck, and it came to Auckland. And yes, I'll just move along and see what I've got next. This is sort of developed from the Jacob's ladder. That on the base there is a pool of water. You can see how the motifs go from one thing to another, and they've got northeast, southwest, and the ladder in the middle, and the arms reaching up. And yes, when I went, but I said the director said he wanted a sculpture, and I went into this place and I saw that cliff face, and I thought, this is where I put the Jacob's ladder. This has been waiting all this time to put it somewhere. So I persuaded them to, I did a model, and all these Army and Navy important people, like, they've got big titles. And anyway, there I was with my little model, showing them what I might do. And I said, they had nautical Jacob's ladders, and they did. I'd done the research, and they were, to get right up into the mast, they had these big long ladders. And so they thought, oh, that's pretty good. Yes, maybe we can go with this proposal. And so that's how it happened, but it was a major to make that. And I do have a film, which I showed the other day, of it, because it was made over the summer, and it's all bronze, and it was made in this bronze foundry, which is beyond primitive. Like, it would be like something from the early man, burning big fires and creating bronze. There's nothing fancy, and big old crucibles, and tongs to open it and to lift it and pour it, and there's no advanced technology. It's that fundamental fire, molten metal, the pouring and so on. It's a pity I haven't got that film here, but anyway, because I showed it the other day. Whoops. And everything got sort of more and more amazing, and they had this opening for it. It was absolutely gorgeous. And the Bishop of Auckland came to bless it, and it's sort of like, sometimes I feel like I'm watching a dream, it's not like, oh, I know what I could do, I just follow the thing. In this case, the Jacob's Ladder. And here it is here, and I've planted a whole lot of, I really liked the cliff face, to be honest, but council people complained there were stones falling down and this and that, so it got planted with these plants. So they're growing together, so it's looking a bit better, but they looked a bit tacky for a while. Oh, and this is a work, also bronze, that my old school, Otago Girls, commissioned for their 100th anniversary, and it's a chambered nautilus because that's their school song and symbol. But unfortunately, it was a big to-do to commission all that. It was in the middle of COVID, so it was a real mission to get it cast, and I was having to drive down to Otara, and all of Auckland was shut down. And in the foundry, not terribly salubrious surroundings, but anyway, one way or another it did get done, and I was so proud of that, actually, because one's old school, and it's not like I was a fantastic pupil. I was all right, but and there it is there. And this is also bronze, and this is called the empty chair. So this is the chair for dreaming and sensing. So sensing maybe someone that's gone, and you can see in my context how it all comes together. So that it's an empty chair because when Dad died, there really was an empty chair. It was pretty painful. I didn't like that empty chair. But it's also for sensing, dreaming, creating, holding. And I took it down to Narrowneck to take the photo. It was quite a major, because it is incredibly heavy, bronze is. And so here I have returned, if you like, to the Jacob's Ladder I was talking about. And somebody commissioned this from Hawke's Bay to commemorate their great nephew who died in just not far from Passchendaele, the Bassovia. And so I made this ladder with the soldiers climbing up, the ghosts, if you like, of the soldiers. And it went into their garden, and they said, they live near Napier, and they said, you can put it wherever you like. And they've got this fantastic view looking out to the Ruahines, yes, the mountains anyway. There was snow, but like you've got here, lovely snow. And I thought, well, yeah, I could put it there. But I thought, no, I think I'll put it facing the ridge where this young man found before he left for the war. And then on the day that he died, the anniversary, the sun rises right there in the middle of that ladder. And I just think that's incredible. Because other times, it might rise a little bit to the left or a little bit to the right. But this, I've caught that photo. And I think it's probably, in a way, the guts of it all is to go with better feeling, if you like. Like, you could think, oh, well, look, if I put it leaning up towards the Ruahinis, that'll be an amazing photo. But, to put it where it meant something, I think was well rewarded, actually. And then this is the actual ladder. So when it came back to Auckland, it lay around for quite a while out at our batch at Bethel's Beach in pieces. And once again, that wonderful engineer I talked about came and helped, and Derek helped to strengthen it. It was all in pieces. Strengthen it and put it up in Bethel's Beach. So I was doing a bit of research about that, and I thought to myself, I think my father was not just taking us up a ladder. He did mountaineering and round Aspiring and places like that way back in 1927 when he came back from the war. And I thought, I think he might have been showing us, to climb and to be a bit brave, and because we were only little kids, about 8 and 7 or whatever. I think that, so anyway, I thought I'll do some research on this and see how it went. And it turned out that he, in the guidebook, was a tiny little mention, and I thought, there's not much mention here about their team going up Mount Aspiring. And then I sort of, which is in common with all the work I've read, just that bit more and just gone that bit further, and because I want to know, and I went that little bit further, and the text went on and said something like, the following climb to the one my father was on was an English group, and they did whatever they did, and then the next climb was the one my father, I thought, that's the one my father's on, the next climb. And it said they took a full-size movie camera up Mount Aspiring. I thought, wow, that's unbelievable. And I thought, well, maybe that exists still. And I contacted the film archive, and yes, it does. It really does. It's a pity. If we had a film evening, I'd show you all this, but so I've got this film of my father as a young man with the 3 or 4 other colleagues, companions on this climb, and they've got World War I old clothing, sort of balaclava and old pants. They didn't have anything fancy, and they've got a cigarette and whatever of that time, and they've put there's no verbal dialogue, but they've put little captions along the bottom. But can you imagine that this a crazy dream, really? Like, where's that Jacob's ladder? Oh, here it is. We could take it up to Auckland. Oh, we could put it at Bethel's Beach. Oh, here's a film of my father. It's like, and then I thought, all right, well, I'll better check what the biblical meaning is of Jacob's ladder. And so it's that Jacob went into the desert and fell asleep. And when he woke up, he saw a ladder ascending into heaven and angels ascending and descending. And when he awoke, he named that place Bethel. And so Bethel means place of God. So that's it. So that's some of my story. And any questions, please fire away.
I don't know how your little hands would do all this work. Look, their tiny hands, I'm stunned.
I know, to be honest, I think, how the hell did all that happen? Because there's a lot of other things happening, as I've been telling you.
You're in tune with the universe, Master.
Pardon?
You're in tune with the universe.
Well, I sort of
It's
like to
universal.
think that
Definitely.
because there's been so many bizarre assistances, if you like, that are out of, you think, who would make a work and then it goes to France or Belgium or Bethel and it all ties together. That's what's incredible. So thank you for listening.
The fact that you're